Hi everyone, Dylan here. Today we just received news on the latest EC regulation, and what we want to understand is how does these EC regulations actually affect you as a buyer, whether or not you're buying an EC or whether or not you're buying into a private market. So let's go straight into the regulations and understand how does this affect you as a buyer. First thing that the regulations announced was the MOP period that is increased from 5 to 10 years. Meaning to say that today when you buy an EC, when you stay in, after 10 years, then you can sell the property. Second one is that the deferred payment scheme is being taken away. So in the EC market, actually a lot of buyers are using the deferred payment scheme. Why? Because they don't want to rent. So this deferred payment scheme actually helped them a lot in terms of the transit from their HDB to the EC. And the next one, which is the most important one, is that the first-time owners are different now. The quota that is increased from 70% to 90%. What does this mean is that second-timers now are only with a 10% quota from what it used to be a 30%. Meaning to say, if today the development is 700 units, last time is 30%, which is 210 buyers can buy. But now it dropped to 70 second-timer that can buy. And the other one is that the second-timers can only buy into the property 2 years from the launch. So these are the three most important regulations that has been released. So the key thing is, how does this actually impact the market or impact you as a buyer? If we see the regulations that is being announced, these regulations target mostly are on the second-timer buyers because the first-timers will not have this issue. So why the government want to do that is because they understand and also they have saw that the prices for the EC has been growing rapidly over the last few years, and you can see over here it has went up to almost 1,009 PSF just for an EC, which is very similar in terms of the pricing for a private development as well. And if you see, there is more second-timers buying new ECs over the first-timers. That means last time, right, if we see, there's about 50% of second-timers. But today, the second-timers actually increased to 60 to 70%. So we can see clearly that the government is introducing this regulation mainly to target the second-timers. Why? Because they see that this pool of buyers are the ones that is pushing up the prices in terms of the EC market. So we see some examples to understand clearly how does this actually affect from the old ruling to the new ruling. So we look at Oral at Tampines. Why we look at just March is because after the first month, the second-timers can come in. So if we see Oral at Tampines that has 700 units in total, the launch day it sold 661. Means to say that 39 units are balanced for the second-timers. Means after this first month, 39 second-time buyers can come in to buy Oral at Tampines. And based on the old ruling, when there's 700 units, 30% of it, there will be 210 second-timers that can buy straight into a development during the launch time. If we add the total of the balance unit of 39 units, there will be a 249 second-timers that can buy in this development. So the new ruling now, if you look at it, there's 700 units of 10%, meaning to say in the new ruling, only 70 second-timers can buy into this EC. And if you do the math and make the difference, you can see that if the new ruling is implemented into the new plots of land, there will only be 179 buyers that is left without units to buy. But this ruling is only applicable based on the ruling date and those lands that are bought on or after the ruling date. But when they buy, normally it will take about another 1 year to launch. So these are the buyers. So we want to understand first thing, what are the amount of buyers that is left that is not able to buy any unit. And this is just one project. If we look at the past 4 projects, Auto Place, it has 403 buyers. Coastal Cabana, 424 buyers, based on the same calculation on the new ruling. And last but not least, Resale, 195 buyers. So if we add up all these 4 projects, there will be around 1,200 second-timer buyers that wants to buy an EC but are unable to buy in the new ruling. So the question we have to ask ourselves now is that, let's say today, if you're one of the buyer and you are having this issue that you cannot buy the EC, where will be your next option? Most of the time, these buyers will be looking at the upcoming ECs because at the end of the year, there will be still 5 more projects of EC that's going to be launched that is not affected by this ruling at all. And if you can see, they are mostly in the north side. Senja Close, Woodlands Drive, Sembawang, and Miltona Close. So the question we have to ask ourselves is that, in this situation, I would say highly likely these 5 projects will definitely have a pent-up demand of buyers going in. Why? Because these 5 projects, they are the last few that is not affected by this ruling. Meaning to say that the second timers still can buy, they still have a certain good quota to hit. But what if next year comes and this quota is being removed? What will happen to all these buyers? Or let's say, for example, today, one of the buyer or the buyers that are looking at these 5 projects are unable to get a unit. Where would be their next option? Most of the time when they're looking at somewhere in the north, most of the buyers would consider a project also in the north. As a buyer today, I would definitely want to see a few options. Number 1, my EC. Number 2, maybe a private in the area. Number 3, maybe a private that is similar pricing to an EC. So if we dive deep and we really go and understand where are the upcoming projects in the north, we will be very clear to understand what will their steps going forward be like. First one, we look at Tengah Garden Residences. If you know from the launch, right, it has sold 99%, so there's not much units left there except for the bigger bedroom types. Lentor Garden will be launched during 4th of July, so that one is upcoming. The other 2 that will be coming likely next year will be Dairy Farm and Chenchuru Close. And the last one is Nara Residences, which is already launched. So why do I want to talk about these 5 projects is because as a buyer today and you are looking into the EC at the north and you are unable to get a unit of these 5 projects that I mentioned to you, the chances of you exploring somewhere nearer to your area will be very, very high. And what we want to ask ourselves, one very simple question is that if today your demand starts to go up because you're unable to get an EC and in these units, and your supply of the units in this project starts to drop, what will happen to the price of these launches? We have to know this thing very clearly because in most markets, developer, when they see a drop in the supply, they will definitely raise the price going forward. If you want to understand this thing more, you can refer to one of my videos that I talk about the 3-phase pricing in terms of how a developer price their units. So why I want to share with you this thing is because now you have to be very clear. What is your objective or what is your plan going forward? If today you are a buyer that is very certain already on upgrading and you know that you want to upgrade, then you have to be very careful whether or not it's to an EC or is it to a private. What are your options going forward? Number 1, what we want to understand is, let's say for example, you're going for an EC, right? And this EC you don't manage to get. Then what is your next option? If your next option is towards private, then you must know, for example, now we go back. These 5 projects, what you can do is, for example, you are very sure that you want to upgrade and you want to go into an EC first. You have to give yourself a certain cut-off time. Meaning to say, there is 5 here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, right? What you can do, you can go for the first balloting, second balloting, third balloting, and after the third balloting, you might want to say that, okay, enough of the balloting, I want to consider something else. So why do I want to do this? It's because today, if you finish all these 5, what is the chances that all the buyers that don't get a unit go to? Highly likely, they will also think the same way and consider here. But when you wait for these 5 to finish, and you go back here, when this supply of units starts to drop, what will happen to their price? So today, if you are very sure that you want to upgrade and you are certain, what I would say is I strongly urge you to consider carefully those projects that you are looking at and go into it fast. Why? Because the prices will definitely be affected. Once this group of buyers unable to get a unit in the EC will definitely come down to projects like this. It may not be in this location, but a good handful of them will definitely consider. So we are looking at just this number based on previous launches. But if the numbers goes up, then definitely the units here will drop and the price will go up. So what I'm trying to say is that if today you are unsure whether or not you should be upgrading or not, that one is on a separate note. But if today you are very certain that you want to take this move and you're just not sure of what are the options that you are able to go into, then do plan carefully to know where are you at so that you can position yourself safely in today's market. So in summary, what we want to understand is, of course, the EC regulation that will affect us in terms of the pricing going forward. The 3 EC regulations that I mentioned. Number 1, the MOP from 5 to 10 years, right? Second one is the deferred payment being taken away. So there'll be no more deferred payment scheme going forward in future. And third, which is the most important one, is the second timer quota from 30% to 10%. Meaning to say that now there is very little second timer quota. And of course, the other one is that from 1 month that the second timer can buy will go into 2 years. So now all second timer can only buy 2 years after the project is launched. So for this certain scenario, I'm sure there will be definitely some balance units that can buy, but the chances of it having any balance unit at that point in time can be on the lower side, and it may not be the best unit that suit you. So as a second timer, you must be very clear that this is going to happen and how does this affect you if you are choosing to buy an EC going forward. And of course, because of this ruling, there will definitely be an influx of buyers into the private market. Because those buyers that are unable to get an EC will consider other options, which is the private side, or even maybe a resale private. So when you know that this is going to happen, there will be a high chance that the prices in the private market will increase going forward as well. And of course, last but not least, where demand increase and supply remain, meaning to say that today, when these buyers go into the private market, the supply of the units in the private market will drop. And when there's this such reaction, the developers always will tend to raise the prices. So today, if you are in a situation that you are buying a property and you are very certain that you want to do this upgrade, do make sure you know what are your cut-off for your certain ECs that you are looking at, and make your move fast before this thing affects you. Because any 5 to 10% change in the market can increase or decrease your profits going forward in future. End of the day, whatever that we do, we have to be very careful and we have to be very sure what are we doing so that we can get the best out of our funds that we are using for this upgrade. With that, I will end my video, but before I end, I just hope that if you have any questions and you are unclear how does this measure affect you going forward, do drop me a WhatsApp. I will explain to you clearly how does this affect you and your purchase going forward. If not, you can also join my Telegram community, because every day I'll be sharing a lot of updates there on my latest video or regulations or news articles that will affect your planning in future. Thank you.